folks, if you could please find your seats. Okay, folks, could you please rise in honor of the Cate class of 2017? great pleasure to welcome you all to the 104th commencement exercises at Cate School, wherein we acknowledge and pay special tribute to the members of the class of 2017. Please stand for the invocation given by Emily Griffin, faculty member whose tenure in the English department spans 32 years.
Good morning. Seniors, you've made it. Your coursework is complete, your room is packed, or close we hope. Your yearbooks are signed, your family has arrived, and the moment has come for your last official Cate event. Friends, family, teachers, students, alumni, and trustees are all here to celebrate your collective achievements as the class of 2017. So, take a deep breath, relax your shoulders, sink a little deeper into your seat. Your most important goal for this morning is to fully experience and enjoy each moment. We are here because we care deeply about these young men and women. For faculty and students, these seniors have been an integral and influential part of our lives during their time here. Families have grown to care not just about their graduate, but also for the friends they've made who have become like family. These ties now bind us together in ways we will continue to discover. In the words of Maya Angelou, we spend precious hours fearing the inevitable. It would be wise to use that time adoring our families, cherishing our friends, and living our lives. As you sit and listen to speeches and accolades, stories and memories, immerse yourself in what you are hearing. Fully experience the moment and absorb this celebration of you before it too becomes a memory or a story retold. Thank you.
You may all be seated. Trustees, parents, friends, colleagues, students, and of course, soon-to-be graduates. We're all here, as Ms. Griffin said, to honor a moment, many moments actually, whose significance is contained not in this ceremony, but in each of you. We tend to measure life in benchmarks we achieve, a high school diploma being a principal and relevant one today. But diploma is just a symbol, really. It means to everyone else that you've completed a course of study, but I imagine it will mean something different to each of you. Something personal, a series of memories, as Aparna noted a few weeks ago, to remind each of you who you are and where you have been. I am not so far removed from that same journey that I can't recall what it felt like. It's a funny thing, though, about growing older. No matter how far along we get, or how many credentials we receive, we are still always the kid we were first. I say that not to diminish your achievement today or your maturity. You have earned the distinction we're about to bestow upon you, but you must not race away from life's beginnings too quickly. There is too much there still that will help to make you who you will be. When I was a boy, significantly younger than you all are right now, I was consumed with eagerness to grow up. I had many models, of course, but it was to my father that I looked, not so much for guidance, because no one at any age wants to be told what to do, but for an example to follow. He was my archetype, so I did what he did, generally. Though Dad was an educator by trade, he devoted the vast majority of his time away from work to collecting moths. Yes, you heard me right. Most of you are probably thinking now of the holes in your socks or blankets that were apparently chewed by moths, or by the caterpillars that become moths. There's a reason, I suppose, that they call those pungently scented insecticides mothballs. But that does a bit of disservice to my father's avocation. There are literally millions of different species of moths whose larvae have absolutely no interest in textiles, most of which we never see because they're nocturnal. Many are incredibly colorful. They come in every size and shape, from as small as the head of a pin to the size of a watermelon. There's a moth that can be found in the Caribbean called a white witch whose wingspan is so large it could easily fly away with the family pet. Thankfully, there are no carnivorous moths, so your dogs and cats are safe. Moths are nectar feeders if they feed at all, and my father loved them. So, I loved them too. Maybe not as much as my dad, but I got a certain thrill from sharing that interest with him. It was ours, it was what mature people did, or so I assumed, and nobody else saw what we saw. Because moths fly at night, the only way to collect them is to put out a light. In our case, we would mount a white sheet on a wall, hang an ultraviolet or mercury vapor lamp in front of it, because those are the brightest types of illumination, and then wait for the moths to come. Sometimes we would sit before the light as they came flying in, talking through the night to pass the time. At other times, we'd check the light before we went to bed and set the alarm for 3 a.m. and check it again. Generally, when a moth comes to a light, it stays there, so there's no real rush to capture the little buggers. And light, at least for most moths, has a hypnotic effect. They are literally entranced by it, traveling sometimes great distances to land on our sheet. You may know of this phenomenon from the electrified bug zappers that some people use to eradicate biting insects. These lamps are indiscriminate killers, luring hostile mosquitoes and unsuspecting moths to their fiery ends. If you ever wondered if there's somebody out there who's actually on the bug's side at such moments, look no further than my father. But I digress. Like me, my father began this admittedly peculiar hobby when he was just a boy. He was not following a parent's footsteps, though. He simply came to his interest of his own accord. There are stories, in fact, that come from my grandmother about my father's propensity to collect a variety of living creatures. On one memorable occasion, she grabbed his laundry bag just after Dad had returned with it from boarding school, only to discover, as she dumped what she thought was laundry on the washroom floor, that the clothing in the bag was there to make a home for the dozen or so snakes that Dad had managed to catch. Dad claims he can still recall the tone and volume of his mother's screams when those snakes hit the floor. The reptile phase passed, thankfully, but Dad's interest in moths never did. By the time I came along and was anointed deputy moth collector, my father was already a phenomenon in the world of entomologists, the official name for bug guys. He'd written for publications, yes, there are scholarly journals for this stuff, corresponded with fellow bug guys all over the world, and had built a collection that would ultimately be coveted by the University of Connecticut, where Dad currently works as a volunteer. There, he is known as the guy who discovered the food plant for the larva of Hemeris grasslus, a slender clear-winged sphingid, easily confused with a bumblebee that Dad put on the map with his article in the Lepidopterist Journal. It's lowbush blueberry, by the way. I know you were curious. I was in on the discovery, of course, though I didn't have a degree or anything official like that. I was only 8. Dad didn't have one either, at least not focused on bugs, botany, biology, ecology, or anything relevant to his avocation. By training, he was an anthropologist, but I doubt that was much help with the moths. There are millions of species and millions of Latin names and genuses, and Dad knows them all by heart. For a while, I assumed that is what it meant, not simply to be an adult, but to be a father, to know the name of every living creature on this earth, including, maybe especially, the critters very few others even know exist. In hindsight, I'm not sure there's a better model for a kid growing up or a more productive conception of adulthood. To be able to name something, as my father does, is a way of respecting that very thing, of giving it dignity and identity. Not many people do that even for their fellow man. Dad does it for everything, even bugs. Ever intrepid, Dad arranged a series of bug trips every year, and I went with him. We traveled all over the country, always to the most remote possible location in search of various species of moths. We sprinted through sagebrush in Mesita, Colorado, which offered me my first exposure to both heat stroke and altitude sickness. We waded through swamps near Charleston, South Carolina, where Dad's experience with snakes came in particularly handy. And we relished the wildest places on this continent. The fewer the people around, the larger the population of moths, which may be the basis for my next commencement speech. Our most recent trip occurred just last summer in Montana. Dad knew of a campground high in the crazy mountains where we might find a small arctiid called Neoarctica beanii. Sounds very impressive, doesn't it? Believe it or not, you may be aware of this family of moths. Arctia comes from the Latin word artis, meaning bear. The caterpillars from this family of moths are the brown and black furry fellows commonly called woolly bears. Clearly there is something in a name. But again, I digress. Dad and I managed to get to this campsite, clear an area in the grass, and set up a light that we ran off a car battery. We did see a couple of people at the campground, all of whom looked at us rather quizzically, but seemed wary of approaching. We're sort of used to that, and their caution is understandable. Let's just say that the community of bug people contains more than its share of unusual characters. One of whom so worried my wife when she met him that she quickly pulled my dad aside and argued rather vehemently that you should not go anywhere with that man. Dad did, of course, and lived to tell the tale, but Ginger remains wary. We survived the night in Montana, too, despite a pounding thunderstorm that pulverized most of the moths on our sheet and drove us into the truck around 3 a.m. No bug trip is ever uneventful, and on this particular night, despite the rain, we actually got the moth we were looking for. And remember what I said earlier about always being the kids we once were? Well, you should have seen my 80-year-old father when he spotted Neoarctica beanii. Zora Neale Hurston famously writes towards the end of Their Eyes Were Watching God, "Here was joy." She might well have been seeing my father in that moment. You could even argue that moths saved my dad's life. When my mother succumbed to cancer, he lost a partner who had, even more than his remarkable hobby, defined and enriched his life. My brothers and I could never imagine Dad without Mom until we had to. And yet, even amidst that loss, certain forces kept Dad on track, and one of them was that community of people who loved moths and loved him. They could not replace my mother, but they gave him something to do, someone to do it with, some momentum to get him past the abyss of grief he could easily have fallen into. The first bug guy that I ever met was named Herman Fleschke, a professor at Georgia Tech who tried to teach me calculus when I was 9 and called my dad Bean. It's German for Ben, he said when he caught me looking confused. It's funny, but when I think back now to those people who were my, quote, grown-up archetypes as a child, the ones I really knew, like my dad or even Dr. Fleschke, they were just big kids doing the things they loved. They still are, even now in their 8th and 9th decades. I have wondered often what to do with that knowledge. I run a school. Growing up is my business. And yet I am conflicted. The people that I love and respect most in this world are the ones whose adulthood has not somehow replaced their childhood, whose lives are as rich in personal interest and initiative as they are in professional accomplishment, and perhaps most importantly, who find value in life and living things well beyond their own existence. As we agreed when I began this talk, we acknowledge a milestone today, but maybe we need to see what's next, not as a linear path, but a series of concentric circles that take us both forward and backward, that remind us of the things that fill us up and encourage us to take them with us. Not just people and memories, but interests, affections, pastimes, hobbies. My father is my hero because it has always been clear to me what he loves. And in that loving, even in loving moths, he reveals something generous and playful, not simply about the man he has always been, at least as long as I've been around, but the kid he remains. I hope and trust not only that you have such people in each of your lives, but that you become such models for the many who will surely look to you. Already your peers and those you have mentored this year are watching. A great many more will do the same in the coming years. What will they see in you? Will they know what you love, or why? With all due respect to our present ceremony, maybe the milestones that truly matter are the ones that reveal us in the maelstrom as distinct, different, and worthy of note and memory. Like a night at the light, when my father and I sat down together to enjoy the company of this world and its winged inhabitants. If I wish you anything beyond this mesa, it is that you know such moments. Thank you. And now I'd like to turn the podium over to Francesco Duffy Boscagli, who was selected by the class of 2017 to address you this morning. Francesco?
Thank you, Mr. Williams, and thank you everyone here. It's an honor to be speaking before you today. Since my sophomore year, I've been writing for our school newspaper, the El Batador, or as we like to call it affectionately, LBAT. My 3-year career in journalism began my sophomore year, during which I was placed in the opinion section. I gave Cate my pointed opinions on pressing topics like our response to the drought and our shortening attention spans. My junior year, I moved into news and features, opting to keep my opinions to myself. I wrote teacher interviews and a groundbreaking article about the varsity art program. But this year, I decided to try something completely different. I needed something to freshen up my journalistic portfolio, and the solution was simple. I imposed myself as LBAT's resident reviewer and created a series of articles I dubbed Carp Gems. Each weekend, I would go out into the field, explore our little town, and write reviews on Carpinteria's most popular spots. The series has helped me understand things I may never have otherwise about carp and its various hidden spots. So without further ado, I present to you my final carp gem, Cate School. Situated at the top of a mesa overlooking Carpinteria, spectacular is only the simplest way to describe Cate School. In Carp and Santa Barbara, skyscrapers don't exist, but at Cate, the eucalyptus trees that line the roads and walkways jet out of the ground, their uppermost leaves undoubtedly scratch where the sky begins. Their monumental size even brings to scale Mr. Williams, who is certainly one of the tallest headmasters in the country, if not the planet. Venture further into campus and you'll see the off-white buildings, accentuated by dark wooden doors and windows, and then accentuated again by the green of an olive tree or the grass on senior lawn. All this is what gives the campus its signature look. A look I fell in love with the moment I took my first tour, and keep falling in love with every day thereafter. I know personally there are days when all I have to do is step outside to realize how absolutely lucky I am to attend this school. There's something about it that feels as if you are inside a skillfully painted watercolor, one where all the colors are made for each other, and the brushstrokes allow them to rest exactly where you'd expect. When it's cold at Cate, fireplaces are set ablaze, and their welcoming flames and reassuring crackles set one of the campus's various wood-paneled rooms to life, bringing forth the snug feeling you might get on a cloudy afternoon in the Johnson Library. The look of this campus serves to attract us and does a great job of that. We are drawn in like moths to a well-lit dorm room at night. But it's also the Harkness tables, those big, sturdy examples of carpentry that make Cate the place it is. Those tables, as well as every other table on campus, whether it be in the dining hall, the 25-house common room, the physics lab, or the math room, serve as highways over which ideas travel at the speed of sound. They are tables over which discoveries are made as students let their voices dart back and forth between classmates and teachers alike. But maybe what makes Cate more beautiful than anything else is the fact that we don't need tables to have these conversations. Our minds are always ready to share with others the vast wells of knowledge we acquire every day. Whether it be describing the fundamental differences between a classic and modern revolution, as we construct tacos in the dining hall, explaining differentiation to someone who doesn't take calculus on the walk to tennis practice, or arguing over the meaning of a symbol in Mrs. Dalloway during the 5-minute passing period between English and biology. It is these conversations which provide the fuel to the academic machine that is Cate School. It is not only curiosity, but the ability of a Cate student to act on that curiosity that drives us forward. This academic passion is something we might often take for granted or even forget about, especially on nights when homework is piling up and it seems like time is a lost concept. But it is something that makes Cate unique. Here we are explorers, conquistadors of the unknown. Cate is a boarding school, which means a majority of the student body lives on campus. A few local kids like myself have the great privilege of going home each night to our families. But for the most part, this haven upon a mesa sponsors Cate Carpinteria's longest-running, most study-oriented sleepover. As a day student, I had to decide if I wanted to leave each day immediately after sports to the familiarity of home, or if I wanted to stay until the late hours of the night, forcing myself to assimilate. I opted for the latter in the hopes that I'd be able to blend in with the rest of my classmates who, instead of waiting at the day bench on Mesa Road, retreated to the warmth of their rooms as study hours began. I knew I had achieved my goal of becoming a day boarder when at the beginning of sophomore year, Lila asked me during breakfast, "So, what dorm are you living in this year?" She and a few others seemed a little astonished when I revealed to them I would be living at home in Santa Barbara as I had the year before. But the fact that most people live here on the Mesa, coupled with the fact that only 270 people attend the school, lends itself to the strong sense of community Cate establishes. Through mutual respect, trust, and altruism, each person of the Mesa has contributed to a place not only where people feel safe to express themselves and their thoughts, but feel safe to help others express theirs. So with the foundation of trust, Cate, to everyone here, is a community of friends. I understand how it's unrealistic to assume everyone here is on perfect terms with each other, but as Mr. Powell told me during freshman orientation, don't worry, we only accepted the nice ones. But I have found this so true. In the end of the day, when you're walking to the dining hall after a long cross-country practice and your muscles are aching, you'll still smile when someone you know only because you sat together a formal dinner once gives you a wave and a quick hello. But if you need proof that we're a community of friends, look at assembly. Our Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays are collectively brightened when Ian and Joe teach us how to juju on that beat, or when Connor makes his birthday announcements, and of course when we are honored by the advice of Dr. Love. We clap together after those announcements when Mr. Wood explains to us that we don't have to clap after every single announcement, after birthday announcements that last a little bit longer than they probably should, and of course the cheering that the crowd erupts into when Mr. Williams bestows upon us a free day. It's fair to say that everyone at Cate, faculty and students alike, know the feeling of walking out of assembly with our hands tingling after 30 straight minutes of clapping. Assembly really is the perfect example of Cate's functioning as a community. There's something beautiful in how even the most pointless or cringeworthy announcements are still met with smiles. Or how when someone is clearly nervous when they're giving an announcement, we'll all cheer just a little bit louder than usual to respect their bravery. Here at Cate, we understand each other, and that is really the most valuable thing we are given on the Mesa. We understand how scary it is to step in front of the entire school to give an announcement, or how overloaded it feels on nights when it's just impossible to finish all our homework, or how homesick people can sometimes feel. At Cate, we know how it feels to wake up painfully early, whether it be for an early lab or a work crew, and we even know how it feels when nothing seems to be going right. But at Cate, there's one motto that encompasses all: servans. And servans doesn't only mean public service night, although that is a part of it, but servans on campus means serving each other. We're here to remind each other that things will be okay, to remind each other that we know how it feels when the grills are charred because people are making stir fries during first lunch, or how it feels when we don't have a weekend because of an especially harsh S week. Servans means empathy. And that can manifest itself in 100 ways. It can be as simple as a hug, or it can be something less obvious, like sitting in the Mac room with your friends, listening to music, or just taking a moment to recline on one of those comfortable couches, while you all make jokes and have a conversation about what you'll later characterize as nothing. For others, that empathy might be represented in a purposeful lack of action, Those moments when you're allowed to just be alone, with nobody asking you or calling you. A brief moment of silence. But empathy can be big, like Morgan's idea to put college rejection letters up outside the theater. Not only to show the school that rejection is normal and okay, but to show the entire senior class that there's nothing to be ashamed of. Rejection is normal and everybody gets rejected. These acts of empathy are what make leaving this place such a difficult task. Not only have we found somewhere beautiful, somewhere we can be challenged by Cate's brilliant teachers, and somewhere we can be part of a community, we found a place where people understand what we're feeling. And for all the help they've offered every day, and all the help that we've offered in return, it's nearly impossible to imagine just saying goodbye for the last time, or at least for the last time in the next 5 years. But I'm also filled with excitement and pride, because I can say with confidence that we will go on to do great things. We will find the things that drive us if we haven't already, and we will pursue those with the determination we have learned here. Cate has given us the education and the values. Values like servants that will guide us into whatever is to come next. As much as it hurts to say goodbye, we must look forward with an eye of optimism. It is with this glimmer that we will finally escape the so-called Cate bubble, ready to challenge, innovate, create, and learn. I want to leave you with a story that you can do with what you will. It was the second day of Yosemite, and my pod was getting ready to fall asleep in the clearing we found by a lake. By the time the tarp was down, we'd made the decision to sleep without tents so that we could let the stars above us lull us to sleep. A few clouds draped the sky, but for the most part we could see through them into the vastness of the Milky Way. A few minutes after I'd snuggled into my sleeping bag, I felt a single drop of water touch my nose. I looked over to everyone with a little grin on my face and said, "You know what, guys? It'd be really funny if it just started raining right now, right?" And then, of course, no more than 5 minutes later, completely out of the blue, it began pouring. It was as if someone had turned on some cosmic tap right above us. When the rain began hitting our sleeping bags, everybody scrambled and rushed to pull another tarp together on top of us while saying, "Fran, you jinxed it, you made it rain." I'll just say this, anyone can control the weather. Thank you everyone for all the good times, the hard times, and every memory we've made here. I wish us all luck and so much more. Thank you.
Francesco also chose the weather today. Our first award will be presented by Student Body President and Vice President Flora Hamilton and Ryan Borchardt.
The Stephen Spitler Cup, class of 1963, is awarded to a faculty member whose endeavors on the Mesa push their students to the limits of their capabilities, inspire the people around them, and hold those to higher standards and who, each day, make us laugh. At Cate, we as students are used to our teachers being brilliant, masters of their trades. But when it comes to this teacher in particular, he seems to take this notion to new heights. He can best be described as Leonardo da Vinci, Stephen Colbert, and Jimi Hendrix, all wrapped in one. Yet it is not just his impeccable brushwork, dry wit and humor, or virtuosic guitar skills that leave his students enamored by him. It is his unwavering thoughtfulness for each member of the Cate community that draws students towards him.
As a dorm parent in schoolhouse, he manages to make the most mundane of situations, like room check at 7:45 a.m., amusing. We'd wake up to room check prizes such as golden spray-painted peeps, magical beans, paragraphs comparing rooms to baby angels' breaths. The list goes on. At night, students find themselves talking to a teacher who deeply cares and is willing to listen, and someone who gladly treats us all to the quote-unquote delicious spheres of goodness, or more plainly, bare knuckles. As a teacher, he has sparked the interest of art, history, in many generations of Cate students. Students who have taken his class leave with a comprehensive knowledge of art's role in humanity and an appreciation for aesthetic beauty in life. Years and years after students graduate, they continue to rave on and on about their love for Mr. Collins' teachings. Thank you for coloring our lives, Mr. Collins, with your art, humor, and care. On behalf of the graduating class, it is our honor to present Patrick Collins with the Spittler Cup.
Second award will be presented by Head Prefects Morgan Prinz and Teddy Wecker.
The Jeffrey Sumner Pallet Class of 1988 Award is presented by the graduating class to a classmate whose presence and character have inspired our class to laugh, question, and care for each other through a combination of honesty, kindness, and optimism. This person has proved to all of us that with simplicity and humility, you can genuinely earn the love of those around you. His kind and helpful nature draws people in and makes them want to befriend him from the very beginning. In all aspects of this community, he has taught us to love and relish each other for who we are and aspire to be, not what others think of us. He has taught us that it is important to remain true and honest to not just those around us, but to ourselves. Although he wouldn't admit to this himself, his presence and pure essence have influenced this community greatly. But most importantly, he has taught our class that with honesty, kindness, and optimism, anything could be accomplished. Throughout these 4 years, he has been our unconditional friend and above all, earned our respect.
I am honored this year with the privilege of presenting this award to one of my closest friends, a person who has never failed to make me laugh with humorous and insightful comments. This student is known by the class of 2017 as one of the friendliest and most relaxed people on the Mesa, and leaves a trail of warm smiles and laughter wherever he goes. He truly spreads happiness on our campus in whatever way he can. This can mean printing out pictures of a funny-looking husky and hiding them all over campus, or sharing with us his artistic abilities through Instagram and the design of our yearbook inside cover. He once told me that if I could pronounce his name right publicly, he would grant me 3 wishes. We are honored to present the Jeffrey Sumner Pallet Class of 1988 Award to Francesco Del Fiebelscati.
We now enter the section of the ceremony devoted to faculty acknowledgments and awards. The W. Burley Petit Fellowship was established by friends of Mr. Petit to honor outstanding teaching at Cate. A student at Cate and the parent of an alumnus, Mr. Petit served as a Cate trustee for 28 years. Known widely for his good sense and frugal lifestyle, Mr. Petit was a stickler for value. At the Burlingame Country Club outside of San Francisco, where he was a member, the caddy fees were, in Mr. Petit's mind, completely intolerable. To avoid the expense, Mr. Petit built a small trailer that he could strap to his faithful Labrador Retriever. The dog dutifully followed his master around the course, clubs in tow, requiring only a biscuit or 2 in the way of a tip. There were, however, things that Mr. Petit was quite willing to pay for, and good teaching is at the top of the list. This particular fellowship comes with a $1,000 stipend. It is awarded to 2 faculty members whose remarkable service to Cate takes place behind the scenes, in interactions and commitments that are as powerful and supportive as they are discreet, and to the most of the community, invisible. They are both tireless in their efforts, all of which directly support the work and interests of each and every member of this community. If we could somehow replicate their DNA, ethics issues aside, we surely would. it is my distinct pleasure to offer the W. Burley Petit Fellowship to Director of Technology Mike Ferguson and Director of Student Services Marnie Weir. With the generous support of an anonymous donor, I am pleased to offer 2 fellowships for exemplary teaching to members of the Cate faculty whose service this year has been particularly distinctive and impactful. The fellowships include $2,500 stipends, which the recipients may use as they choose. The purpose ultimately of this program is to honor the exceptional teaching and commitment that has always distinguished the men and women who deliver the program here on the Mesa. The Centennial Fellowship was conceived to honor thoughtful, purposeful, and innovative classroom teaching. Focused directly on pedagogy and practice, this award seeks to recognize an educator whose work this year has demonstrably advanced his or her own teaching skills, course design, and lesson planning, and in so doing impacted productively the learning of his or her own students. This year, the fellowship is awarded to Taylor Wyatt. The Kirkham-Spickey Fellowship was designed to acknowledge the multiplicity of endeavors in which Cate faculty members are involved. This award recognizes excellence in teaching in the broadest application of that role, encompassing, as we do at Cate, all that happens in the classroom, in the dormitories, on the stage or athletic fields, and in broad-based engagements with the community. This is an honor built on the actualization and exemplary achievement by a faculty member of the very same diverse commitments we ask our students to make. The fellowship is awarded this year to Shannon Drew. The William New Class of '59 Servans Award. The Servans Award was created to honor the remarkable service to Cate of Bill New of the class of 1959. In the dozen or so years since the award was conceived, it has become a means to honor the diversity of service that has been offered to Cate by the remarkable people who compose our community. Alumni, trustees, faculty, and friends have all received the award, which is given this year to a true Cate legend. She and her husband came to this Mesa from their home in Connecticut in the summer of 1948, eager for an adventure on a new coast, though our recipient will confess that she cried every day of that first year. It is never easy to leave home. But by year 2, the East had lost its luster and Cate began to shine. Our award recipient and her husband became, over the course of their unprecedented tenure, central not simply to the community of the school, but to the advancements of its curriculum and program and to the care of countless students and faculty. Here they raised their family in the same manner they guided Cate, with poise, conviction, care, and compassion. And when Stan Woodworth succumbed to cancer in 1989, our award recipient persevered, never relenting in her service to Cate, in her affection and care for our students, or in her connection to the work and life of the school. She served as a school librarian for 37 years, and after leaving that post became Cate's first archivist. Of that work, she famously said, The archives are not just about 1910 or 1940. They are yesterday and last week, all those moments that are making the school what it is and will be. Her title, even today, is Librarian Emerita, suggesting quite rightly that our recipient orders our resources, particularly our history, so that we might discover that which we need to know. Asked in 1995, the year she officially retired, what Cate stands for, our award recipient said simply, excellence and goodness. Once referred to as the First Lady of the Mesa, our recipient in many ways is our history and a primary source of the spirit that gives vitality to Cate. As a longtime trustee reminded us more than a decade ago, headmasters come and go, but we always have Betty. Earlier this year, though, in the midst of her 69th year on the Mesa, our recipient left the home that the school built for her and her husband 33 years ago. Every Thursday, we still see her and her friends strolling the Mesa for their weekly walks. We recall, too, the countless Scrabble games she played with Cate students who would visit her home, or the endless string of alumni she would greet at Camp Cate. There are no words that can do justice to the contributions that she has made to our community. Even thank you seems wholly insufficient. We are simply better because of her. And in this year, where for the first time in 70 years, we have to make our way without her reassuring presence, it seems right and fitting that we engrave her name where it belongs, among the giants. Please join me in honoring Betty Woodworth. And now we move on to the student awards, the first of which is unprecedented for us to give at this particular event. Somehow, yesterday, Delaney Mayfield, arguably the best and most impactful volleyball player ever to wear the royal and white, who earned 6 varsity letters during her tenure at Cate and took us to unprecedented heights in her main sport, was omitted from our award ceremony program. So Delaney, would you come up? I have your citation. The faculty presents the Scholarship Cup to a senior who has demonstrated exceptional intellectual interest and achievement. This year, the award is given to a senior who has achieved the highest cumulative grade point average in the school. It is awarded to Bryce Huerta. The Ellis Cup was initiated in honor of faculty member Sandy Ellis, whose concern for others, deep interest in each student, and unselfish effort to organize, support, and implement so many activities has made Cate a happier and healthier school. This award recognizes a student whose spirit, energy, and concern for the community has had an unusually positive impact on the school. This year, we recognize as the winner of the 2017 Ellis Cup, Flora Hamilton. The Morgan Gwynn Temby Award is given by the parents in honor of the memory of Morgan Temby, class of 1969. Morgan passed away shortly after he completed his freshman year at Stanford. He was a young man who cared immensely about his friends. His first interest was people. The Morgan Gwynn Temby Award is therefore appropriately given each year to a student who has shown deep concern for the welfare of others. This year it is awarded to two students, Nika Driza and Serena So. The Dorman Pichelle Class of 1914 Medal is awarded in honor of Cate's first senior prefect. The medal goes to a prefect whose commitment to the community, willingness to accept responsibility, and generous friendship has made him or her an outstanding role model. It is presented this year to Musa Hakim. The Nelson Jones Class of 1948 Medal is awarded in honor of alumnus and life trustee whose contributions to Cate have enriched the school for over 60 years. This medal is given to a senior whose leadership by personal example demonstrates humility, integrity, and dedication. It's awarded this year to Connor Davis. The Santa Barbara School Medal is awarded to an outstanding member of the senior class for exceptional leadership and achievement in service to the school community. It is awarded this year to Teddy Wecker. The Headmaster's Award is given annually at the discretion of the headmaster for distinctive service to the school community. It is awarded this year to 3 students who have, through the conduct of their lives and the expression of their citizenship, contributed demonstrably to the spirit of this place. Unflagging in their efforts, yet eternally placid and pleasant in carriage, these 3 have set equally high standards for purpose and perspective. They are kind, thoughtful, disarmingly capable, and the embodiment of so many of the virtues we prize at Cate. It gives me great pleasure to honor with the Headmaster's Award Ryan Borchardt, Ava Herman, and Henry Walsh. That's for you. I gotta give you a hug. The William Shepard Biddle Cup is presented in memory of Major William Shepard Biddle, a member of the class of 1918 and one of Cate's most distinguished alumni. This award recognizes that senior who, in the opinion of the faculty, best exemplifies and demonstrates the qualities of humanism, idealism, and a desire to achieve that which Cate seeks to teach its students. This year, it's an honor to present this award to Henry Dawson. Our next speaker was selected by the class of 2017 to address them today. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Dr. Stephanie Young.
Good morning. Thank you, class of 2017, for the honor of speaking to you today. On July 3rd, 2002, I raised my right hand, recited the oath of enlistment, and joined the United States Air Force. I wasn't one of those hoorah troops out for retribution, but in the months following that fateful day in September, the idea of waking up every day for a paycheck didn't really make sense anymore. Working to protect those I love did. That I ended up flying jets as a consequence of that realization was sort of a fluke. But I could handle the science, and I didn't get motion sickness, so that's where the Air Force put me. As I began the process of becoming an officer and learning to fly, I understood that all of the trials and tribulations were meant to mold you into the perfect airman. But there are some tests along that journey that distill you down to your essence. One of mine came during the summer of 2002 along a quiet stretch of US Route 70 in the hinterlands of New Mexico. The 2,385 miles of Route 70 stretch eastward from Globe, Arizona, all the way to the eastern seaboard. But just off the exit at mile marker 207, tucked between the San Andres and Sacramento Mountains, lies Holloman Air Force Base. As part of the Air Combat Command, at the time, Holloman had stealth fighter planes and drones, and was home to the Aerospace Physiological Training Center. Although military jargon tends to make the extraordinary sound downright dull, this training center was anything but. For inside that unassuming brown brick training center was heaven and hell and everything between. Inside was a series of bewildering rides in a human centrifuge. Although you may have used a centrifuge in science, you might not have spent much time wondering how rapid spinning affects the human body. To make a long story short, what looks awesome in a test tube does not feel awesome. When the human body is spun in a centrifuge, blood rushes to the extremities and away from the brain. When that happens for too long, the body experiences a G-lock, or a gravity-induced loss of consciousness. In preparation for my role as a weapons systems officer or navigator in an F-15E Strike Eagle, I had to prove that I could stay conscious while experiencing high levels of gravitational force, commonly called Gs. Gs intensify the effects of gravity and are essentially an amplified version of the sensation you feel when you do a tight turn in a fast car or ride a roller coaster. Each aircraft has a specific amount of G-force you have to tolerate to fly them. And for the Strike Eagle, the threshold was 9 Gs. At age 24, I was 5'11" and 150 pounds. This meant that when pulling 9 Gs, my body felt like it weighed over 1,300 pounds. Each arm weighed about 70 pounds, and my head weighed nearly 75. Given those numbers, you can imagine how excited I was for my opportunity to pass the centrifuge. So during that sweltering summer of 2004, I arrived at Holloman with 3 buddies from flight school, and on a cloudless morning, we headed into the centrifuge. When it was my turn to test, I repeated the process performed by those who had gone before me. I put on my G-suit and strapped into the seat. Inside the control booth, the physiology technician described what was about to happen. This is the Air Combat Maneuvers Profile. 3 Gs for 10 seconds, 6 Gs for 12 seconds, back down to 3, up and down again, until the final rapid onset of 7.5 Gs for 12 seconds. I tightened my lower body muscles, took a deep breath, and yanked back on the control stick. The technician's tinny voice came over the speaker, coaching me through my anti-G straining maneuvers. Legs tight, breath. You're on top. Breathe. 1, 2, breathe. Squeeze your legs, almost there. Breathe. Unlike life, I had someone narrating the precise moment when things were going to get hard. But this wasn't some Hollywood film where the young protagonist sweats bullets, endures an appropriately long series of setbacks, only to ultimately prevail at the last moment and come out of the trial looking flawless. I failed that test. And the next, and the next. I G-locked over and over. Now the real problem with a G-lock is not that you've passed out with your skin melting like a Dali painting in front of your friends who will tease you relentlessly, but rather that G-locks produce the best dreams you have ever had in your entire life. I mean, imagine you're spinning around in a glorified tin can, willing every muscle in your body to keep the elephant that's suddenly sitting on your chest from squeezing the last bit of air from your lungs when your vision irises out and boom, like magic, you're over the rainbow dreaming in glorious technicolor. The whole time you're dreaming, though, the machine is gradually slowing down and the blood pressure in your brain is beginning to rise. And although it feels like you've traveled halfway to the Emerald City, roughly 8.2 seconds later, you wake up thoroughly confused by your surroundings. Forget waking up late for class. This is one of the most jarring experiences you could ever imagine. You're not sure who you are, where you are, and there's this lingering euphoria that is absolutely obliterated by the realization that you're still sitting in that godforsaken seat. At the end of my third round in the machine, the technician came out to check on me, make sure I was drinking water, and ask if I wanted to try again. If I'd been in that Hollywood film, here's where the music would have swelled. I would have looked up with determination in my eyes, playfully tossed my water bottle to the young airman, and gotten back into the seat to conquer the test. But this was reality. Defeated, I told the technician I was done. Every other person testing that day had succeeded. Even worse, I'd been the only woman in the room, and I failed. I went back to my room in base lodging and tried to shower off the shame. I pulled off my flight suit and stared at myself in the fluorescent glare of the mirror. And as I looked down at my body, it looked like I'd been splattered with red paint. Standing in front of the mirror, the constellation of ruptured capillaries coalesced into the telltale patterning of a phenomenon pilots called Jeezels because of their likeness to measles. As it turns out, even though we can withstand exceptionally high levels of pressure, we almost always bear signs of what we've been through. That day, my capillaries bore witness to the pain I'd willingly endured to be part of something bigger than myself. The next day, I went home, and in the days and weeks after, I did lots of squats and leg presses to improve the anti-G-straining maneuvers that worked to slow the flow of blood away from my brain. And after my second trip to the centrifuge, I passed. None of my friends were there to witness it, but I'd done it. The funny thing is, the centrifuge wasn't the test of my military experience. It was just one test, sandwiched among many others. In fact, right before it, I'd faced the fighter aircrew conditioning test, and right after, I went to survival school. Oddly, a week in survival school was so much easier than staying awake for 90 seconds in a centrifuge. But I guess that's life. Our physical bodies will fail us, and occasionally, our intellect will too. But what the centrifuge taught me, and survival school reiterated, was that even our greatest challenges are bearable if they align with our core values. As you leave this mesa, so much will change. New places, new people, new everything. In the flight world, this total loss of bearings is called spatial disorientation. When that happens, most young pilots tend to want to fly by the seat of their pants, to trust the least intuitive part of their body to tell them which way is up. But in those moments, as the old guys will tell you, you have to go back to your earliest days of training. When your instructors warned you about how the sky sometimes loses its familiar reference points, the horizon fading into the ether. In those moments of desperate confusion, you were to look at the instruments and believe them. If your artificial horizon had white on the bottom and black on the top, whether you believed it or not, you were actually upside down. And since most planes can only fly upside down for very short periods of time, you better make some timely adjustments to get your plane right side up. The old guys got it right for the most part, and as you all head off to live the futures you've been anticipating, leaving behind so many familiar landmarks, there may come a moment amid the whirling excitement when you find yourselves looking for ways to make sure you're still heading in the right direction. Trust the instruments you got here at Cate. Trust them to help you demonstrate the integrity and the conscientiousness our world needs, and to show you how to live the kindness and care that works to sustain us all. Trust the most important tool this mesa has to offer, that guiding moral compass that is servans. By the fact that I'm here this morning and not somewhere cruising somewhere through the wild blue yonder, you must already know that despite my love of this country and flying, at some point a warning alarm sounded for me somewhere deep inside. Despite what everyone around me was saying, I knew flying wasn't where I was meant to be. Harder than the centrifuge or survival school or anything else I'd faced to that point. Saying no to what everyone else told me was a sure thing was the hardest thing I'd ever done. It was the first time in my life I didn't make a decision based on what I thought I was supposed to do. After the Air Force, I went back to school and earned my doctorate, and coming out of a research university, we were all expected to land tenure-track jobs at other prominent research universities. After an arduous job search, I secured the mythical tenure track assistant professorship. And then came Cate. Cate forced me to say no again because Cate was everything I never knew to hope for. Life will do that to you too. So keep checking in with yourself to make sure the steps you're taking are moving you intentionally toward the things that will not only feed your mind, but nourish your soul. So many of the gifts in my life have come from saying no to things others thought were perfect for me, because those no's have allowed me to serve others in a way that depends upon hopeful preparation for the future, rather than thwarting its potential threats. Many of you will pass the tests that come your way the first time you try, and with relative ease. Some of you may come out of those experiences speckled with cheesels, but all of you at some point will face a challenge that pushes you to the very limit of your capabilities. And if you have to give it all to get what you want, then take those knocks, scratches, or whatever other marks you earn along the way and wear them with pride. But remember, the most challenging battle you may encounter may pose no real difficulty at all. When things look good on paper, it's easy to just keep driving down the road you're already on. That doesn't necessarily mean it's the right road, or even the best road. I could very easily still be flying jets or doing research at a university, but I wouldn't be nearly as happy or fulfilled as I have been here with you. You all have shared so much of yourselves during your years here on the Mesa, and your openness, your sincerity, and your willingness to be vulnerable for the sake of connection and community reminds me each day of exactly what it was I enlisted to protect so many years ago. You all are in our hearts and are such an immense source of pride, of joy, and of hope. And we can't wait to see where you go from here. Congratulations.
Appropriately, with those congratulations, we get to the diplomas. The President of the Board of Trustees, Monique Parsons of the Cate class of 1984, will now assist me in awarding diplomas to the Cate class of 2017. Those whose diplomas are awarded with honors, high honors, or highest honors will be noted at the time of presentation. Prior to the awarding of each diploma, I will speak briefly about each student. These are renderings of the unique qualities and characteristics that distinguish each of our graduating seniors. This is our truth. Eleanor Grace Shaw Anderson. If angelic Eleanor were any kinder, we'd start looking for her wings. She greets every person, every opportunity, and every challenge with a ready smile, an earnest expression, and heartfelt enthusiasm. And she hasn't yet met an obstacle she couldn't overcome with equal portions of positivity, work, and all-around brilliance. Eleanor balances her amazing heart with an intellect that is equally compelling. She is perpetually busy doing worthwhile things, dancing in ensembles, deriving joy from hurting her freshman seminar students, or digging into a particularly vexing chemistry lab. One teacher called her a force for good, and referenced her leadership of our public service program. But most see Eleanor's apparent divinity not in any one thing, but in her management of all things, in the purity of her intentions, the manner of her scholarship, the gentle clarity of her being, and the generosity of her commitments. Sienna Marie Ann Biasi Smiley. Sienna's trajectory over the last 4 years is pretty similar to her velocity off the ground as the middle on our volleyball team. Fast and straight up. She's grown into her scholarship with the very dedication and skill building that distinguishes her citizenship and her athletic achievements. Sienna doesn't just want to be good at things. She wants to do the work that gets her there. And she wants to share what she knows and learns. She has done so demonstrably as a prefect in Schoolhouse and as one of the leaders of the Black Student Union. For the last 4 years, too, she served on a committee of the Board of Trustees, contributing to the education of that body and the policies it helps to build. Now, Sienna has set her sights on medicine and the continuing impact she can have on people's lives. Indeed, in all her many endeavors and pursuits, impact is Sienna's strong suit, and it's universally positive. Ryan Davis Borchardt. This diploma is awarded with high honors. The superlatives that Ryan's teachers use are as diverse as Ryan's many talents. He's the heart and soul of teams, vocal ensembles, and student government. His scholarship is deeply insightful, and his manner in class thoughtfully provocative. His leadership flows from an inclination to be of service, and he gives of his time generously and discreetly, as though he is averse to drawing a lot of attention. Perhaps that made his casting as the self-absorbed Robert in The Drowsy Chaperone all the more compelling, for Ryan, as Robert, couldn't keep his eyes off himself, and neither could we. Ryan's friends call him Borch, which is not a reference to the chilled Russian beet soup of the same name. The two, though, do share a certain richness of character, uncanny depth, and exhilarating and lasting flavor. Indeed, the lingering presence of Ryan Borchardt is sure to be conspicuous here, for the engagement he naturally evinces is as memorable as it is fundamental to community. Colin Howard Brown. After a presentation in assembly on the service work Colin has been doing in Tanzania, a faculty member asked, "Is he really as genuinely good and thoughtful as he seems?" Yep, he is. And given his great attention to current events and the happenings in the world, Colin is perpetually finding new ways to be helpful and to build his understanding of culture, conflict, and the manner in which the world can be improved. Aside from his work in Africa, Colin spent half of his junior year studying in Spain, is a driving force behind our Model UN program, and even built skills as a teacher through our Human Development program. Combine such laudable intentions with first-rate scholarship, and we have ourselves a game changer. Already, Cate and the community in Tanzania are experiencing the very impact firsthand. Next, a fortunate university, and then an ever bigger stage. Summer Lee Christensen. This diploma is awarded with highest honors. In her Tuesday talk this spring, Summer concluded with a memorable insight. Life doesn't get better as a senior, you just get better at life. Summer seems to have mastered it. With her signature deadpan delivery, she can offer wisdom on a whole range of topics, often with a clever wit and an inclination towards recognizing meaning and connection across a broad range of disciplines and activities. Metacognition is one of the aptitudes often identified with Summer. But she's just as remarkable as an athlete, the captain of our tennis team who can overwhelm an opponent with power or savvy. Or as a musician, the centerpiece of our ukulele ensemble, as a tutor in our Spanish lab, or even as an ambassador for the admission office. The child of 2 Cate graduates, Summer just seems a natural part of this place, a paradigm, as one faculty member noted, for perpetually becoming better. Icana Simone Davis. Icana arrived on this mesa as a self-described introvert from Texas. You wouldn't know it now. She has, in 4 years, become one of the standards against which we measure contribution, leadership, and engagement. She is the patient prefect directing and guiding youngsters new to this mesa. She is the aspiring programmer, challenging anyone to solve a coding problem before she does. She's the senior who chooses to play JV basketball so that she can mentor the younger girls on the team. And she's the visual artist with an interest in the music business, who's already found a way to translate that ambition into a portfolio of clients. Cate just isn't willing to wait for life or opportunity or purpose to come to her, nor is she willing to forego any of her own responsibility. Instead, she approaches every interactions with two simple questions. What can I learn, and how can I help? Henry DeBon Dawson. This diploma is awarded with high honors. One of Henry's favorite texts when he arrived on this mesa was the Oxford English Dictionary, a compendium that details not simply what words mean, but where the meaning comes from. That's the nature of Henry's scholarship too, to get to the root and origin of ideas, concepts, truths. He's an uncanny scholar, so committed to understanding that he is perpetually reading something well beyond his course of study. In fact, reading for pleasure and interest is one of Henry's pre-lights-out rituals. His commitments outside the classroom are no less comprehensive, for he leads teams as a captain, leads dormitories as a prefect, leads the Young Men's Forum in defining masculinity in the modern age, and leads community discourse as one of our collective touchstones. It must be a weighty mantle to wear, but Henry seems unfazed by expectation or responsibility. He just begins each day by honoring his opportunities and finishes it off with a good book. Ryder James Dinning. There is very little paint left on Ryder's football helmet at the end of the season. It's a record of sorts of the manner in which Ryder commits himself to a task or a team or an objective. He is undaunted and unrelenting, a picture of composure and a model of applied energy. His clarity of purpose is not surprising. We see it everywhere, and it led one faculty member to refer to Ryder in a recent letter as our rock. More remarkable, though, than Ryder's many commitments are the bearing he manifests in pursuing them. He is naturally reserved and understated, a listener who can and does respond with great empathy and understanding. That very nature has contributed to Ryder's scholarship as well, allowing him to demonstrate the clarity and understanding that comes from his attentive nature. And while Ryder suggests that his career on the gridiron is now over, the very qualities that propelled him there will do so everywhere else. Lila Jane Dressler. Families who visit Cate and have Lila as a tour guide never fail to identify their time with her as one of their memorable moments on campus. Anyone who watches her in the pool, and particularly on the water polo team, can't help but marvel at her poise and strength in front of the goal. And teachers who share the classroom with Lila inevitably remark on her seemingly insatiable curiosity and distinctive scholarship. There is an energy, a lighthearted banter, and disarming but well-meaning candor that distinguishes every engagement with Lila. She is happy to tell it like it is, and equally likely to make fun of herself in the process. She shows great seriousness of purpose, but she's also careful not to take herself or anyone else too seriously. In so doing, she presents the perfect model for the freshmen she serves as a TA or the people she meets through our public service program. We remember the distinctive people in our lives, and Lila is surely one of those. Danica Ven de la Peña Driza. Nika's every expression is genuine. There is no pretense to her, no inclination to take the easy path, No attempt to make the difficult look simple. She is too earnest to misrepresent things and too empathetic ever to couch her own experience as somehow different from others. She seems, in fact, to enjoy the truth that we all struggle at times, and she is as content to console a friend in distress as she is to share in the joy of one who is exhilarated. Her empathy flows from a very deep well, coloring her gentle leadership, her great commitment to her studies, her joy in her pastimes, of which bookbinding and playing the organ are just two, and her attention to her responsibility to the community. There is really no halfway with Nika, no 1 foot in and no 1 foot out. There is only thorough and profound application, the results of which, at least for Nika, seem to be joy and loved, received and inspired. Francesco Maurizio Duffy Biscagli. It's a name you want to say. Lyrical, undulating, complex, but nicely tonal. It's fun to listen to as well. Francesco Maurizio Duffy Biscagli. It's a name that suits, for Francesco is as compelling and soothing, as distinctive and memorable as his appellation suggests. His greatest strength as a scholar may well be his gift with language, in English or French, and his knack for balancing precision of thought with artistry of expression. His bearing in the community is similarly balanced, for all seem to value and appreciate their time with Francesco. And they enjoy, too, his inclination to embrace a good challenge, intellectual or theatrical, to laugh at himself and with others, to share his life and personality gently and magnanimously. Like the bass section he leads in chorale, Francesco seems to create congruity where others might only find dissonance, the result of which is beautiful music. Dylan Alexander L. There's an endearing clarity to Dylan L. He keeps it simple, focusing on those fundamental qualities that distinguish productive people. He is steady and thoughtful, never taking his eyes off the objective or the manner in which it might be reached. He is understated and reserved, more likely to think before he speaks or to listen to another's perspective. And he is principled in his work, always asking for his best effort. That very nature has led him to positions of authority and responsibility here, and it has infused his citizenship with unselfish power. We listen to Dylan, trust him, enjoy working with him, because we know his intentions are laudable, and because we appreciate that he is as happy to lead as to follow, whatever is best for the team. And teams, particularly athletic teams, are as fortunate to benefit from Dylan's own actions as those his work ethic inspires in others. Catherine McDonald Grossman. This diploma is awarded with honors. Catherine is a rare find. She is one of only a few students we have ever enrolled from Kentucky, and she joined our community as a junior, a year that we admit very few new students. In no time at all, though, she proved herself indispensable. A remarkable and insightful student, she complements her natural aptitude with an old-school work ethic. As one teacher noted, Catherine understands that what one gains from an exercise is proportional to her investment in it. That commitment is manifest all over the campus now. In the Human Development Program, where she serves as a TA, on the lacrosse team she captains, even on the co-ed thirds basketball team that she and her teammates made the team to watch this winter. It is thrilling, in fact, to watch Catherine confront any challenge. She meets it like she does a lacrosse game, with uncanny insight, thoughtful vision and speed, and quickness that quickly separate her from everyone else. Kevin James Ha. In the early morning, when most others are still sleeping, you can find Kevin on the tennis court, working out with his father and preparing for all the matches yet to be played. We did not make Kevin into a great player. He was that before he came to Cate. But on this mesa, he took all the discipline and hard work that had helped him to such accomplishments on the court and focused them on what he needed to do in the classroom and the community. The result now, 4 years downstream, is a young man who is as impressive off the tennis court as he is on. This year, in fact, he reminded us all of our power, of the need to use setbacks as opportunities, to define ourselves by the work that we choose to do. And he has more than lived up to those words himself, leading an outing week trip to Yosemite for sophomores, building academic achievement worthy of his acumen and his effort, and leading that tennis team that has long relied on the strength of his play with the character of his leadership. Musa Simon Hakim Jr. Musa made a decision partway through his tenure at Cate to be the student and ultimately the leader that this community needed him to be. An aspiring engineer, he tested himself in our most rigorous math and science courses. He tried his hand at acting too, showing great composure on stage and a certain ingenuity, Adolfo, when it came to rendering a character. Acting seemed to appeal to Musa's interest in testing himself, in broadening his range and trusting in his preparation. He invested his time in the community in the same manner, ultimately earning a prefectship in our freshman boys' dorm and proving to be one of our most conscientious role models and a standard bearer for integrity and responsibility. He hasn't given up sports, of course. Musa is still a standout on our track team and about as rabid a Cleveland sports fan as there is in the world. Lord knows they need it. But he seems to see his future as dependent on his intellect and his great character, both of which will ensure he will be a real champion. Flora Shuchi Hamilton. This diploma is awarded with high honors. Flora ran for president of the student body last year because she loved the service component that is so much a part of leadership. And her tenure in the top job has revealed ever more clearly the unselfish core of this remarkable young scholar. Only Flora can articulate with such sincerity what it means to be a guest or a host with a well-meaning, "Come on guys, we have to represent." It's what Flora does every day, not simply with her perpetual kindness and accessibility, but with her boundless energy and good intentions. Teachers who laud her scholarship speak with equal passion about Flora's inclination to tutor and support her peers. And everyone marvels every time Flora sits down at the piano. It might be fair to say that few saw Flora's leadership coming 4 years ago. Now, though, none of us can imagine Cate without it. Anna Jean Hassan. The written word seems to captivate Anna. She gravitated as a freshman to a creative writing club called Writing Dangerously, and she's built her course of study around language and human endeavor. People seem to compel Anna in the best ways, not simply their expressions, but their character, their interests, and their opportunities. And she has become an advocate and a spokesperson at different times for those who need a voice. She has been active in our Gay Straight Alliance and has helped the community build policy and awareness that is supportive of all people. She has connected students who attend Cate on scholarship and has advocated for increasing the breadth of our financial aid program. A little introverted by nature, Anna is energized and inspired by someone or something to fight for. And in that expression, we see all the fire and insight that has distinguished Anna's academic work, and all the possibility and advocacy that will surely define her life in the future. Christian Mickelson Herman Jr. Christian is the guy everybody wants on their team, regardless of what the team is for or what it's trying to do. If its purpose is academic, Christian will be the provocateur, one with the right questions and the unusually inquisitive mind. If the challenge requires endurance, Christian will be perfect for the job. A colleague once noted, Christian is like a puppy filled with boundless physical energy and a great will to please. And if the goal is something athletic, well, there is no more able or accomplished athlete than Christian. He is a standout with his hands on the tennis court and with his feet and head on the soccer field. Water, too, is his thing, either on a surfboard or as part of our water polo team. Yet amidst all of these talents and aptitudes, all you sense from Christian is composure, good cheer, and a certain joyful appreciation for competition. It has been a great privilege to have him on our team. Ava Beaumont Herman. This diploma is awarded with honors. A faculty member once described Ava as simultaneously humble and powerful. Her power comes from a remarkable array of skills, some academic, some artistic, some athletic, and some interpersonal. Her artwork has won national competitions, her facility with modern languages won her the Woodworth Language Cup, and her deft personal touch earned her a prefectship. Yet Ava carries these and other accomplishments lightly, as though they don't mean all that much. And to her, they probably don't. Ava seems more inclined to savor opportunities or friendships or a good tennis match than to look too far back or too far forward. She will take what comes, particularly a good and provocative challenge, and do magical things with it. Learn new skills wherever she goes, and much as she has here, craft her masterpieces along the way. Bryce Nathaniel Yosef Huerta. This diploma is awarded with highest honors and will be presented by trustee Frank Huerta, the class of 1985. Bryce spent 2 years on the Mesa, yet one of my colleagues acknowledged recently, I've still run out of superlatives to describe him. It is true that Bryce pushes us all almost as hard as he pushes himself. He is as talented a student as we have seen, compelled by ideas and inquiry, and as agile intellectually as they come. Even more disarming, as another faculty member noted, Bryce is as polite as he is smart, and that's saying something. On more than one occasion, not having taken a prerequisite, Bryce took a second-year course and taught himself the foundational material while he pursued its higher applications. He likes big questions, and he is inclined to invoke Robert Frost's The Road Not Taken, a poem about choices, as a personal mantra. That's fitting, for Bryce has chosen the path that wanted wear, and making a difference with every thoughtful stride. Aparna Ramanan Iyer. Of Aparna's work as a teaching assistant, a faculty member acknowledged, her interest is not in modeling for underclassmen what they should be as a senior, but in helping them develop the practice of seeing complexity and breadth in the world, and the initiative to follow their own aspirations. Underlying such teaching is the profound respect that Aparna has for people. for the people with whom she shares her remarkable life. She is deeply curious about the human experience in all its forms, in culture and ideologies, and the means we use to understand each other. Her scholarship takes her on that very path, is rich in the humanities, and is distinctive for the manner in which it connects disciplines and concepts. Aparna's clarity of purpose is strengthened as well by endearing candor, a disarming sense of humor, and a deceptively strong competitive spirit. There is no better company to keep, aquatic teammate to have, or perspective to discover than Aparna's. Anyo Zhang. This diploma is awarded with honors. Anyo admitted recently that he is most at home wearing a lab coat. Far from being a startling revelation, the admission confirmed what we've come to appreciate about Anyo, that he is fascinated by the way things work, by the intersection of chemistry, mathematics, and physics, by the discoveries we can make when we dive deeply into science. Said one teacher, when it comes to understanding the complex principles of engineering, Anyo has no equal. That's an aptitude Anyo is happy to share, which he does as a tutor in 3 different labs. His skills with language are equally profound, for he is fluent in 3 at the moment and tutored others extensively in Chinese this year. It is perhaps the character of Anyo's scholarship that is most distinctive, the joy of it, and the gratitude he shows after each class. His letters of thanks to teachers at the end of a trimester are just one reflection of the gift and gratitude he offers any community of learners. Matthew Ryan Cate. If we were to honor growth in this ceremony, then Matt Cate might well be the star attraction. That's not because he's nearly a foot taller than he was when he arrived as a freshman, but because of the manner in which he has applied himself to the opportunities before him. Matt is conscientious and careful, unflappable and resolute. He knows himself well, and he uses that self-awareness to build meaningful scholarship. He has grown into Cate in the same way that he has grown into himself, with thoughtful energy, well-meaning dedication, and a focus on doing rather than saying. Matt's skills have been on display all year as a leader of the activities committee, but were most conspicuous in the senior haunted house, arguably the most impressive and scariest Halloween experience ever constructed on this campus. Leave it to Matt to set the standard, especially when he is working to improve everybody else's experience. Isaac Hope Lee. Isaac wrote earlier this year, I like to work with my hands and in my head, so designing and thinking about solutions to complex problems are fun challenges for me. Though he is not one to betray a whole lot of emotion in class, the joy that he derives from inquiry is pretty conspicuous. The greater the challenge, the more animated Isaac becomes, leaving his journey here as a story of momentum building. Isaac himself sees that momentum carrying him toward engineering and the opportunity to solve real-world problems. But in truth, he will be well positioned for any course of study. Just watch him play chess, and you recognize a young man compelled by strategy, intricacy, and a worthy opponent. And given his growing aptitudes and appetite for challenge, adversaries at Isaac's level are going to be harder and harder to come by. Dongha Edward Lee. This diploma is awarded with high honors. Edward's name is already firmly ensconced in the Cate pantheon. He is the mathlete who topped all of the others, a standard setter in the classroom, in Cal Math League competitions, and the winner of virtually every quantitative honor Cate bestows on its students. It would be easy to simply call Edward gifted, but that does little justice to the agency Edward shows in advancing his own understanding. His inquisitiveness is unrivaled, driving him deeper and deeper into topics and compelling him to order his own knowledge and understanding. And like the true scholar that he is, Edward answers his many and varied discoveries and accomplishments with the modesty of someone who remains well aware of all that he does not know. Such a posture makes him not only a thoughtful student, but a patient and attentive tutor, a generous, community-minded citizen, and a captivating model for the eternal search for understanding. Chayu Tommy Liu. Tommy has known since he was a child that he was headed for a life focused on art and design. He has the technical chops and has distinguished himself in our quantitative disciplines. One teacher called him a computational polyglot because of his aptitude as a programmer. But Tommy does not intend to spend his life at a keyboard. His artwork is as impressive as his coding and reveals Tommy's keen eye, creative mind, and spatial awareness. It is easy to mistake Tommy's unflappability for disinterest, but his placidity hides a mind that is perpetually at work. As he noted recently, I am very passionate about what I do, and I know ultimately it's how hard you work that matters. Thankfully, Tommy takes that same commitment to athletics, playing on the football and volleyball teams, and demonstrating in conspicuous fashion the remarkable impact of his hard work. Lauren Nicole Locker. This diploma is awarded with honors. Lauren has an unusual and remarkable gift for expression. She's one of our most convincing writers, having won the Hartzell Prize in the History Department for her junior research paper. Yet she's equally facile with journalism, and this year served as one of the editors of El Batador. Nor is English her own literary milieu. Lauren is one of our most precocious and accomplished Spanish speakers, having supplemented her course of study at Cate with 2 summer language immersions in Spain. And when or if Lauren ever tires of words, she turns to images and her equally remarkable visual art. There, too, she has received national recognition for her work, evidence not simply of broad and impressive talent, but a commitment to expression in all of its forms. And with a mind like Lauren's behind them, each gesture offers some critical new insight. Annie Jasmine Liu. Annie is patiently relentless. Her well-meaning ambition brings with it a captivating seriousness of purpose and enviable structure. Her productivity is well known to students and teachers, and its byproducts are conspicuous both inside and outside the classroom. A talented writer known for her depth of thought and her attention to detail, Annie is just as likely to be supporting another student as a writing tutor as she is to focus on her own work. She leads our public service program, so she has a well-honed sense of empathy, and she is an active believer in our Round Square program and the exchange of culture and ideologies the program enables. Athletics, too, demonstrate Annie's resolve and aspiration, for she's become a varsity contributor in both tennis and track. There is no area of endeavor that Annie cannot master, and that mastery, once achieved, is always tinged with a certain easygoing composure and peace, which are as distinctive as Annie's many accomplishments. Matteo Lucalion. In his Tuesday talk earlier this year, Matteo spoke about the challenge of working within the academic structure at Cate. His unique and powerful mind, he pointed out, follows its own patterns to both productive and unproductive ends. It was a trusting speech, Remarkable not simply for what Matteo was willing to share, but for the self-awareness it revealed. Matteo is a thinker and a questioner. He wonders why things happen or how things work. He is not content with the superficial or the simple, which is why he has pushed himself so demonstrably and has come to such understanding about his own unique cognition. Perhaps equally compelling, it's Matteo's humor, his broad engagement, and his characteristic sincerity that have distinguished his journey of discovery. And in his own special way, Matteo has made himself great within a structure that he had to adjust to. Therein lies his genius and the foundation for what will surely be a remarkable intellectual life. Pearson Holmes Lunt. It is easy to laud Pierce for his athleticism. He is, and has been for some time, a mainstay of 3 varsity programs, and his dedication to his sports and his teammates is as impressive as his performances on the field or the court. He leaves us, in fact, to continue to compete at the collegiate level in football. But to focus on Pierce the athlete is to miss so much that is remarkable and endearing about this young man. He is, in fact, as committed to his studies as he is to anything else. Rarely loquacious, but refreshingly sincere and candid, Pierce is, in many respects, a model of productive citizenship. He leads by example. He values honesty and integrity and supports the same in his peers. And he will be the first to find what is best in a given situation. Peers call him the ideal teammate, a designation that serves even outside the arena of sports. Mason Lewis Makel. This diploma is awarded with honors. Mason warms up before basketball games wearing flip-flops. He'll shuffle to class looking, in the words of a colleague, like a dark-haired surfer dude. And yet when he actually plays in the game or participates in class, he is fierce and focused. Mason seems to relish those moments when he is challenged by an opponent or a concept, and he never fails to rise in the face of such opportunities. That pattern is conspicuous on the basketball court, where he puts that big, agile body to work in the low post. But it is just as impactful in the classroom. Mason likes the difficult questions, the ones that indicate a student has reached beyond the surface to find meaning. One of his teachers lauded his keen and nimble mind and suggested that his queries put him several steps ahead of his peers. And yet, even that level of cognition does not change Mason's unflappable, easygoing nature. He takes everything in stride, comforted perhaps by the knowledge that he has the skills to meet any challenge. Julian Earl Moss. Julian's economy with words and his gentle affect prompted a colleague to invoke the iceberg analogy. There is depth there, said the faculty member, much of it focused on the practical application of knowledge and skills. Julian wants, quite sincerely, to have impact on the world and has already been involved in significant service efforts, both home and abroad. There he answers every expectation with unflagging effort and commitment. But Julian is not some mass bobbing about on the tide. When he is in the water, speed is Julian's distinguishing characteristic. He is one of the best aquatic athletes ever to come to Cate, a porpoise in the pool and the leading scorer by far on our water polo team. No one, it seems, can slow Julian down or rattle him, and he gets better as the stakes grow and the competition intensifies. Deep he certainly is, but in the pool and elsewhere, Julian can fly too. Nathan Rollo Martin. There is a somewhat irreverent saying, it's not the size of the dog in the fight, it's the size of the fight in the dog. Watching Nathan throw his body around the court on our volleyball team or covering kickoffs on the gridiron is to confirm the notion that the greatest force in the universe is that which impels us to action. And Nathan is the poster child for intrinsic motivation. He gives and gives and gives, always with sincerity of purpose, a wry smile, and the best of intentions. A former faculty member called Nathan both charming and charmed. The former because he is so gracious, and the latter because he has emerged from so many collisions and contacts largely intact. That too makes him a great teacher, a role he has taken on in our freshman visual arts course, for he is not daunted by risk or challenge. He just does what is needed and takes all he can from the effort. Cooper Francis Mayer. A faculty member wrote recently of Cooper, "It is impossible to talk about him without talking about his relationship to water." Whether the area of endeavor is academic, like the stream water testing Cooper did here and in Colorado, or athletic, as it is contributions to our water polo team, or recreational, like when he surfs a morning swell or dives on one of the reefs off Catalina Island, Cooper is literally immersed in aquatic systems. One of the byproducts of that association may well be the fluidity of Cooper's presence and bearing. He is remarkably adaptable and understanding, unfazed by impediments and perpetually curious about the world around him. There is a peacefulness to Cooper too, perhaps born of so much time spent in the ocean, where he has learned to cede control to the elements, yet glide along the currents they create toward understanding, achievement, and joy. Delaney Lee Mayfield. In the late fall of her sophomore year, Delaney and her teammates traveled to Fresno to play in a CIF state tournament quarterfinal volleyball game. Delaney was sick with the flu and almost gray with nausea, but she was also our best player, and she was not going to miss that game. It is easy to look at Delaney's tenure at Cate, in particular her leadership of our volleyball program, and see raw talent and the awesome achievement that follows. But Delaney's genius is less her considerable talent and more what she has done and sacrificed to develop it. Her resolve is no less conspicuous in the classroom, where Delaney has found her voice and her purpose, thriving all the more as the complexity and the volume of the work grew. The fact that her commitments outside of Cate to volleyball and service work did not diminish her impact here simply reveals the intensity of the effort Delaney has given and underscores the way one individual can move or inspire or teach a community. Chase Oliver McCaw. It is a great pleasure to spend time with Chase. He is kind and personable, blessed with a warm sense of humor and the inclination to be generous with his friendship. Intellectually, he is similarly graceful and inviting. He likes learning almost as much as he enjoys teaching or contributing his time to help another. We see such mentoring in the classroom, in Chase's work as a TA, in his inclination to do the Kern trip for a second time as a senior, even on the football field or the basketball and volleyball courts. He wants to be helpful to his peers and teammates, not simply to share what he knows, but to reveal to them what they know. It takes a special kind of person to so prioritize his time, and it reveals a good deal about Chase's approach to scholarship. As one of his teachers observed, Chase raises the level of conversation and shares his contagious enthusiasm and curiosity. Would that we could all catch such qualities. James Harris McCullers. In trying to capture Harris's unique, nonconformist nature, a colleague drew a parallel with a Jackson Pollock painting. Harris, she suggested, doesn't fit in any box or on any canvas. He is everything and everywhere. At least he has been at Cate. An actor, a singer, a prefect, a scholar, a techie, a philosopher, an inventor, an artist, and a futurist. Harris finds every imaginable way to express his exploration of the world of ideas and possibilities. Unconstrained by what is, Harris seems much more interested in what might be and in how he might contribute to such possibilities. Imagination is at the center of his scholarship, just as it guides him in his work on stage or in camerata. Whether he has felt an emotion or not, Harris seems to be able to render it, understand it, appreciate it, which means that on stage or off, Harris is the real thing, a most genuine genius. Angelica Manessis Olvera. We were asked on Martin Luther King Day to write on a sticky note about someone who had done something particularly generous. Upon the column to which those notes were affixed, Angie's name was everywhere. She is our giver, one who, according to a faculty member, has made it a habit to put the interests of others before her own. Regardless of the setting or the circumstances, Angie is making a contribution to the experience of another. Her interests only further her unselfish tendencies. She's a passionate public service head, a coveted tutor in the Carpinteria School District, and a leader of our Los Niños program. Her own scholarship is as generous, as impressive as her service efforts, and it is focused appropriately on ways to build connectivity, communication, and common ground. Her seeming quiet is simply a vehicle for Angie's listening, a foundation for her learning, and an extraordinary measure of her empathy. Sophie Marie Nettesheim. There is an energy to Sophie's scholarship that is pretty hard to resist. She loves a juicy challenge and is animated by complexity. Give her a good ethical dilemma to wrestle with, or an apparent contradiction in policy and practice, and you are in for quite a ride. The harder things get, the more Sophie digs in. That's actually true in any area of endeavor. She is as likely to take control in the backcountry or lead the way on the trail as she is to take the lead in a class discussion or in a fundraising effort for a school she supports in Tanzania. There is just no quit to Sophie. In fact, the greater the volume of work, the more energized Sophie becomes. The result, of course, is tremendously impactful achievement and the depth of inquiry that distinguishes real scholarship. That very thing is clearly in her future, for Sophie's mind is literally bound and built for discovery. Connor Jeffrey Pan. Asked to describe his interest in computers and science, Connor shrugged his shoulders and said, "I'm a fourth-generation engineer. I was born into it." At Cate, he clearly dove in, co-founding a technology group called Electric Sheep, leading our technical theater team, and this year becoming a teaching assistant in the advanced computer science class. He's also been researching a Cate app that would give families new to Cate a virtual campus experience. This grew out of an Eagle Scout project that Connor saw as the culmination of his service work in the Scouts. Given his interest in how things work, or how he might help them to work better, Connor's efforts are quite in keeping with his desire to be helpful. He has offered his service to such ends in a host of ways throughout his time at Cate, often thinking inventively about how we can be or do better. No doubt the same lies ahead for Connor as he takes aim at the digital age and shapes it in the future. Connor was telling me about my mic, so clearly he's still working. Lillian Anna Perlmutter, this diploma is awarded with honors. Lillian could be a great many things. She has all the quantitative skills and scientific acumen to pursue her already expressed interest in neurology. As one of her teachers noted, Lillian dreams of learning what makes people tick. But Lillian knows that understanding of that sort transcends biology and chemistry. She loves and appreciates the philosophical questions too, and the speculation about the human condition. Language compels her, both English and Spanish, and she oversaw the first issues of Cate's Spanish language newspaper. She is also a vocalist and a dancer, and is facile with the manner in which one communicates beyond language. In truth, though, it doesn't matter what course of study Lillian pursues, for the manner of her scholarship, regardless of the area of endeavor, is ultimately most critical. And there, she is an intriguing blend of art and science, passion and reason. Morgan Elizabeth Prinz. In a letter discussing Morgan's many and remarkable virtues, a faculty member concluded with a remark about her engagement with the world and the people around her. Morgan, he said, is paying attention. That may well be why her judgment is so impeccable and well balanced, for it is deeply informed. Her scholarship, too, is as impressive as it is broad, and she has the unique ability to examine a situation or interaction and know what is needed. That very nature has led her to the head prefectship she carried so gracefully this year, to leadership on athletic teams and in dormitories. So gracious and thoughtful is she in her many endeavors that now everyone pays attention to Morgan, notes her composure and her poise, sees her tenacity in sport, and even enjoys her tendency to shake it off with a flick of her wrist if a call goes against her on the basketball court. In just such a way, Morgan moves perpetually forward, unencumbered by impediments and ready for whatever comes next. Rebecca Faye Chin. This diploma is awarded with honors. Rebecca has an extraordinary mind. It is a model of clarity, efficiency, and efficacy, said one faculty member. Another admitted, I am humbled by the arc of her development. It does not really matter the field in which Rebecca works. She's as compelling as an artist as she is in the chemistry lab, and she's as likely to use her quick wit as she is her incisive mind to engage with classmates or guide students as a TA or a tutor. What's more, Rebecca is not interested in a lot of attention. She even balks at the prospect of an assembly announcement from time to time, which probably says even more about the virtue of her motivation. She likes to think, to work, to build schools in a Los Niños project and discover something new in the lab. And it seems she feels like the experience of each is reward enough. Her teachers, who have had Rebecca in class, know something about reward now too. Joel Milner Revo. Joel is a Vermont native who roots for Buffalo teams. That makes him tough and hardy and rather used to adversity. Combine it with an impressive intellect, a memorable sense of humor, and an unflagging work ethic, and you have the makings of a great and provocative student. Though Joel would often joke over the years about his intention to attend clown college, his jests simply obscure the seriousness of purpose that drives him. And it has paid off, both for Joel and for Cate. A recruited athlete, he could be playing baseball in college and pursuing studies far outside the big top. His work to earn that result has been conspicuous and impressive. And to see him pitch, or to watch his no-hitter against Thatcher this spring, is to recognize well-developed talent and execution. But Joel has been magnanimous with his energies, leading our video yearbook effort, organizing the ever-popular elimination game, and serving as the treasurer of the Student Senate. It seems we always win, regardless of the actual outcome, with Joel on the Hill. Kenna Bromley Rayner. Kenna was something of a celebrity when she arrived at Cate, the girl who throughout middle school had ridden her bike to and from school, 26 miles round trip, as her way of reducing our dependence on fossil fuels. She arrived by bike here on the Mesa too, as full of conviction and purpose as her notoriety implied. She threw herself into the visual arts, ultimately becoming a remarkably accomplished young artist. Foreign language, too, struck her fancy, leading in her senior year to the School Year Abroad program in Spain. Kenna's path is nuanced, is as nuanced and distinctive as she is, governed by her great creativity and her passion, her eagerness to stretch herself beyond the known, and her quest for the broadest understanding of the world in which she lives. No doubt she still rides her bike from time to time, but she's bound to be known for so much more in the coming years. Elliot Noah Torrance Rosenthal. Since he arrived on the Mesa, Elliot has talked about the long view, wherein he might study medicine, journalism, or maybe history. He likes all and can do just about anything he sets his mind to. He's one of the editors of El Batador this year, so clearly he's scratching that journalism itch. The science has got a good deal of early attention from Elliot, but he seems smitten with history now. The common thread, at least in regards to Elliot's scholarship, is very sharp logic and an intuitive sense of meaning and importance. Perhaps Elliot's access to such capabilities is the byproduct of a generally introspective nature. He often looks deep in thought, but he is just as likely to get everyone laughing with his remarkably dry wit as he is to withdraw. Indeed, the long view may change over time, but Elliot is likely to be ready and able wherever his path takes him. Daniel Hussein Saeed. Daniel joined this community as a sophomore, filled with aspirations of a career in medicine, all kinds of ability, but seemingly shy, a little unsure of himself socially. To his great credit, he did not allow his discomfort to hold him back. He stretched himself in our quantitative disciplines, building the foundation for the very career he imagined when he arrived. He seemed to find opportunity everywhere and committed himself to taking advantage. To see him in his final year as one of the heads of the International Club, a contributing varsity athlete, and a thoughtful public servant is to recognize Daniel's agency in his own growth. He even did the Yosemite trip again this year during outing week so that he might be a mentor to the sophomores. Such commitments require not only courage and fortitude, but the inclination to trust ourselves and others. Daniel shows all of those virtues, and a host of others as well. Ghazal Grace Sahani. It took no time at all for Grace to find a home in this community. Her patient, comforting presence endeared her to students and faculty alike, and her positivity and poise make her immediately accessible. Arriving as a junior, she quickly rose to leadership positions, not simply because of her obvious talents, but because Grace is easy to trust. As a senior, she's a prefect and one of the heads of the Young Women's Forum. She's also a poet, a contributor to the Cate Review, and as one faculty member noted, an effusive learner. While the transition could not have been easy, especially given the number of athletic injuries Grace dealt with, we saw no apparent strain from Grace. Instead, we were greeted with a welcoming smile, unending composure and maturity, and the kind of unselfish aspirations that make communities better, kinder, and more cohesive. The Humans of Cate project that she helped lead this fall is simply testament to what and who Grace values. Liana Maxine Schmidt. A faculty member once described Liana as a wonderfully intriguing paradox because she is simultaneously grounded and on the lookout for the next great adventure. Liana wants to know the world and is well on her way to that very education. She spent summers abroad, last year in France with the Experiment in International Living, traveled to Singapore with our Round Square delegation, and seems destined for the kind of cultural competency that builds understanding around the globe. Her travels have also fired her interest in and understanding of design as she ponders the possibility of pursuing a career in architecture. In such pursuits, her many intellectual skills are likely to be complemented, maybe complicated, who knows, by a very independent nature and the courage not to follow any traditional path. Liana will surely do it her way, which will make her work and her journey all the more powerful and distinctive. Olivia Whitney Siemens, this diploma is awarded with high honors. Olivia is a master musician, twice selected to play at Carnegie Hall, and though she's been a mainstay of our orchestra for 4 years, she has soloed here only once, just this year. It isn't that she's trying to hide her talent, it just seems Olivia is more interested in the process of achieving something than she is in the finished product. Of her academic work, which she produces at a similarly stratospheric level, Olivia admits, "I do love studying, even though that sounds weird." Actually, in relationship to Olivia, it does not. The discipline of learning anything compels her. She was no different on our volleyball team than she is with her violin or her calculator. Olivia relishes the chance to discover something new, not so that she can show it off, but that so she can use it, perhaps to find some as yet undiscovered truth. The result will be a life filled with inquiry, practice, process, and her own special music. What a maestro Olivia is. Catherine Burridge Smith. I'm a bleeping crayon. Cate carved herself into Cate school history with those words, the first in a Tuesday talk about the value of disappointment and the power of humor. She is by nature something of a provocateur. That is conspicuous in her many renderings on stage, even her ill-fated run as a crayon. But it's also in her leadership of El Batador, in her mastery of the written word, and in her thirsty scholarship. As one faculty member observed, Cate is one of the funniest and most serious people you will ever meet. Both aspects have been in play here, leaving us aware that laughter elicits learning and that aspiration can and should be a lighthearted expression. Cate is the master of such balance, even as she demonstrates an almost uncanny level of productivity. TA, soccer captain, student librarian, and originator of the cooking club. Clearly, Cate knows how to get things done and how to do it with flavor. Serena Jimin So. This diploma is awarded with high honors. If there is some important project to undertake or job that needs to be done well, generally folks will ask Serena to lead it or do it. The breadth of her abilities is as remarkable as her unflagging energy, her generous commitment, and her endearing warmth. And no one on this mesa has ever seen Serena perform at a level less than optimum. We worry about Serena being overloaded far more than she does. Maybe that's because when Serena is not working on some community-focused endeavor, she's working in a lab somewhere solving real-world problems, like STEM therapies for age-related macular degeneration. I mean, why not? Of course, she takes classes here too, but exceptional work in academic pursuits is something we almost take for granted. Serena will offer some brilliant conversation or conclusion or observation, doesn't she always? Yes, but Serena's genius is what she does beyond the expected, in the unselfish ether, where her virtue and her brilliance and her compassion color every noble responsibility she assumes. Colin J. Stevens. Colin plays the drums with every fiber of his being. His emotion, his energy, his affection for his fellow man, it's all as conspicuous as his remarkable musicality. The experience of sound simply lifts him up in the same manner it does his audience. He was a percussionist already when he came to Cate, as well as a curious and analytical student and a talented aquatic athlete. But it was clear that Colin's music called to him more profoundly than other pursuits. And he answered that call, taking on advanced independent work, studying with musicians outside the community, and taking a pastime and turning it into a career. A remarkably empathetic young man, he noted last year, no war has ever been started by music. Music brings people together. That's what I want to do. And as so many of his fans will acknowledge, that's exactly what he's done, building the beat and the rhythm that reaches our very souls. Haley Tan Stradoff. This diploma is awarded with honors. There is no fear in Haley Stradoff. Opponents don't intimidate her, challenges don't daunt her, expectations don't discourage her, and mistakes don't stop her. She is one of our leaders, a prefect, a sports captain, and an unflappable teammate who manages to imbue everyone around her with confidence. And that isn't simply because we have learned to rely on Haley to teach us or lead us. It's because she gives us all the impression that things will be fine however they turn out. We like being with her because she makes us feel good about us. Sure, she's led lots of Cate teams to victory too, both on land and in the water. She lights up classrooms just as decisively, and she's shown us that she can win art competitions as well. But the winning somehow seems secondary to the experience, especially when we have the good fortune to share it with Haley. Gabriella Isabel Caralde Teodoro. This diploma is awarded with high honors. Gabby shared with us all in her Tuesday talk, "I was always a tiny one, the smallest on my kindergarten t-ball team, the runt of all-star soccer, the shortest shooter on my basketball team." But she admitted too that she believed that she was destined for something big. At Cate, we don't know that diminutive child. All we see is Gabby's massive commitment to her studies, her huge heart, her soaring musical voice, and her captivating dreams. "Having a student like Gabby is one of the rewards of teaching," said a colleague recently. She is meticulous and thoughtful, able to see all the small details and the thematic elements that connect everything together. Gabby admits that it is hard sometimes to hope like she does, to distance herself from the days when expectations were small, but she never concedes. And sometimes, when we need it most, she sings, and all is right with the world. Amber Cassandra Thierry. Amber hails from well east of here, from New York City in a town in the French countryside. And she's brought with her to Cate the best qualities of both places. She can be the tough, gritty kid who likes to mix it up on the basketball court. A member of our varsity team since her freshman year, Amber is known for both her tenacity and skill, as well as her unwillingness to shy from a collision. That resolve and discipline is also in display in the classroom, where Amber is tireless in her preparation and exacting in her standards. But there is a gentleness to Amber too, and a principled nature that helps her stay true to her rural roots. She proctors in our French lab and is conscientious in the manner that she maintains her relationships and supports her friends. Even a torn ACL during her junior year couldn't keep Amber down for long. She just wouldn't let it. Nicholas William Thomas. Nick doesn't do anything halfway. His interests completely compel him, leading him to an array of memorable aptitudes and achievements. And most of them are quite conspicuous. Just stop by and listen to Nick play the sax in our advanced jazz ensemble, or watch him on the basketball court, or ask to see the novel he's been working on. Nick's breadth of talent is impressive, but the manner in which he has exercised it, musically and athletically and artistically, is particularly humbling. Even more heartening, Nick has achieved these things despite impediments that could well have shaken him off course. Changing schools, a medical diagnosis that essentially ended his athletic career, and the concurrent need to rebuild his priorities. But Nick met that adversity with resolve and the conviction that he knew better than anyone else what he is capable of. Not surprisingly, he was absolutely right. Georgia Bethel Thompson. Georgia hopes to work for NASA one day, which seems a fitting ambition for a young woman who is so adept at raising standards. She is as universally curious and as interested as any student, captivated by everything from cellular biology to cellular communication. She reads voraciously and was one of the students who worked with our architects to help imagine a new Cate library. And she has the grace and the eloquence to connect with anyone or any idea. That very nature has made her one of our most engaging and responsible prefects. Her mentorship seems to be wired into Georgia. And she is as likely to spend her time out of class using her skills to some community benefit, like on Stream Team, or by playing the viola in our orchestra. That may, in fact, be Georgia's special gift. that she can find ways always to contribute meaningfully to the group, whether the task is a challenging concerto or, in the future, landing on Mars. Zachary Lewis Tobes. Zach is our music man. There doesn't seem to be an instrument he can't play, a melody he can't compose, a ballad he can't sing, or a theory he can't master. He is himself a series of synchronous notes, made melodic by the manner in which he conducts his life and the focus with which he pursues his passion. There was a time, in fact, when Zach worried that he could not focus enough on his craft at Cate, but he recognized ultimately that the study and creation of sound is best enabled in the context of other disciplines and areas of endeavor. Zach is as precocious a student of math or biology or history as he is of music. He's a teaching assistant and a cyclist, one who in his freshman year completed 10 legs of the bike-a-thon to help earn the community a free day. The lengths to which Zach goes to invigorate or inspire or support are extraordinary, which may well be why he became a musician. Mariel Compton Vogel. Ellie is our still waters, the well whose depth we can only guess at. A young woman whose placid nature suggests that she knows something that we do not. By every academic measure, there is ample proof of that. Ellie is brilliant and insightful, analytically and intellectually empathetic. She can see truth and understand patterns. Our most difficult courses are always her favorites, but even when she demonstrates such mastery, we sense she is still holding something back. We see her aspire, watched her work on the soccer field where she's a skilled and dependable player, and read her articles in El Batador. We've seen her joy, too, in her friendships, in her scholarship, and in her peace. Certainly, it is no accident that one of Ellie's favorite disciplines is the study of language. Not only does it increase her access to the ideas of others, but it suggests that quiet Ellie may well become one of our great communicators. Henry Clow Walsh. This diploma will be presented by Casey Walsh, class of '73, a former trustee. Henry Walsh seems perpetually at ease. He is as comfortable in the company of adults as he is with his peers, is sincere and graceful in every interaction, and can disarm even the soberest of characters with his dry, self-effacing wit. He brought the house down in his Tuesday talk, in large part because Henry is not afraid to laugh at himself. Perhaps that is because, at his core, Henry has a certain self-assurance born of a life that has ironically brought him into contact with places and forces bigger than himself. He is a lover of the outdoors and a fisherman, smitten with the wide open spaces and the mountains of his native Montana. He's a public servant, having spent summers working to support Native Americans on a nearby reservation and clearing trails with the Montana Conservation Corps. Indeed, this young man who was once afraid of wind seems to have it at his back now, with a future as bright and productive as befits a man of thought, of earth, and of big sky. Chua Chung Jason Wang. Jason has done some remarkable things over 4 years on the Mesa. He's been a determined and driven scholar, a generous and inviting friend, and a principled and empathetic citizen. Those very characteristics led to his appointment as a prefect in our freshman dormitory, for who better than Jason to help younger students understand and respect their responsibility to this community. But in truth, we all got to know Jason best last spring when he campaigned for student body president. There, his generosity and natural inclination for service became more conspicuous. And we heard the oft-repeated affirmation, "I love America." What struck us all about that declaration was the second word, not the third. If we were to sum Jason up and articulate his many qualities, his capacity for love would surely be at the top of the list. And it is in the expression of that very thing that he has impacted this community so deeply. Theodore Wolcott Wecker. This diploma will be presented by Monique Parsons, President of the Board, Class of '84, and Teddy's mother. Teddy is our virtuous Tom Sawyer, the charismatic guy who can make work look like something else, something fun, something we all want to be a part of. He was subtle about it in his early years, giving generously, working hard, doing whatever he could to be helpful. He became our man in the booth and the mainstay of our theater tech team. He was the man in the goal for our water polo team, a gritty and unselfish athlete. And he became the would-be engineer in science and math classes, the guy who could make things work. And soon, everyone knew not only who Teddy was, but about the great things he did. In his senior year, he occupies the most significant leadership position in the school, and yet he carries this responsibility with a deftness and a sense of humility that is reminiscent of the leadership he long offered behind the curtain. His wisdom seems to be a byproduct not simply of his belief in himself, but his trust in and affection for everyone else. Work, play, or anything in between, we will happily join Teddy. Elijah Charlie Weiss. Over the years, Elijah has been every man at Cate. He has rendered some new character in each performance that has hit the main stage, and in those moments we get to see Elijah anew. For though he is not the characters he portrays, the renderings themselves reveal him, show his sensitivity and insight, describe his affection for his fellow players, and his genuine and well-meaning interest in getting things right. He has been courageous throughout his tenure in pushing into fresh areas of endeavor, perhaps to test his own willingness to learn something new. He's become a dancer, took up Japanese after 9 years of Spanish, found himself captivated by numbers, statistics, and economics, and became a vocalist. There is something deeply gratifying about Elijah's journey at Cate, because it is so broad in its impact and its application, so gently bold and innovative, and so clearly the product of Elijah's own unique and generous agency. Nanyan Nancy Wu. This diploma is awarded with highest honors. Nancy introduced herself to the Cate community in dramatic fashion, with a traditional Chinese dance at convocation. There we saw all the artistry, the precision, and the grace that is characteristic of everything that Nancy does. She is a magnificent student, always attentive to nuance and subtlety, persistent in the face of challenge, and a thoughtful, artful communicator. The written word especially appeals to her, and she parlayed that interest into her productive and exacting leadership of our Tuesday Talk program. We even heard in that very venue of a student who had nightmares about not meeting Nancy's deadline for his speech. But Nancy is really all about responsibility, not wrath. She greets families as one of our head tour guides, converses comfortably in 3 languages, and is working on her fluency in American Sign Language. She is just as that dance portended, a most exquisite rendering of human expression. Emily D.D. Zhang. This diploma is awarded with honors. Emily is easy to rely on. She has taken every possible challenge Cate could throw at her and turned it into an opportunity to do something unprecedented. Her scholarship flows from a well of spirited independence, unfettered and essential, ready always to be expressed and refined. Her inclination to be of service is conspicuous both in the manner in which she engages her studies and the way she interacts with the world, this year as head of our public service program. And she is no less impactful in the exercise of her art or her athletics. She is strong and fast, a resolute and daunting competitor. And everything seems to culminate in the manner of her dance. She can do it all, jazz, hip-hop, ballet, but whatever the genre, Emily's movement simply reflects the creativity, the versatility, the grace, and the power that we see in everything she is and does. Robert Yu Zhu. This diploma is awarded with honors. Robert found the outdoors at Cate. In truth, he was already a gifted student when he arrived, highly motivated, disciplined, and genuinely curious. He was adept socially too, blessed with great empathy, patience, and the inclination to listen. One faculty member noted, Robert helps others find their own strengths and voices instead of telling them how to solve problems. It is fitting, given his contemplative nature, that Robert would gravitate to the backcountry, where presence of mind and the ability to collaborate with peers is an absolute necessity. And he has explored at every turn, becoming certified in scuba diving, running rivers in his kayak, and scaling the rock faces of Gibraltar. It seems that Robert will perpetually be in search of new frontiers, be those academic, geographic, or topographic. And in such questing, he is sure to find ever more opportunities to ask and answer the most important questions. Ladies and gentlemen, may I present the class of 2017. I'm now going to ask the faculty to form a receiving line to my right. The seniors will exit. I'll ask you to please hold your seats and meet your seniors on the lawn behind the schoolhouse. I hope you will join us there for lunch.